There's a question here about what it means to be a reporter now, in the sense that we've seen reporters get suspended or fired for sharing their personal opinions on world events or sharing personal views on hot-button issues. In this day and age, where is that line for reporters? And whether it's specifically at the LA Times or in a broader sphere, and what responsibility, sort of that balance of what responsibility do they have, and also what rights do they have, at the same time?
It's a really fascinating question, because it's something. So in my role, I run the homepage, the website at the LA Times, but I started off as a traditional print reporter. I've covered beats and I've learned a lot about data reporting and so I think like reporters in general have to be much more sort of jack of all trades than they were ever. I mean, I know quite a bit of HTML. I mean, all sorts of stuff that you used to just have to be able to like write down on a notepad and transcribe it. So if you're good at writing, bonus. But I have to be incredibly careful about what I say. I mean, I don't share generally personal opinions, and I think that it's important not to, because even if I have a personal opinion, a strong one, I feel like I could still go and cover, like I covered the presidential campaign in 2000. So this is who I traveled with. I traveled with George Bush, Al Gore. I spent 6 months of my life with Dick Cheney. And I also spent quite a bit of time in a van with Ralph Nader. So, I covered all of those people, I think, fairly, because whatever my personal feelings are about politics, I think I could bring an objectivity to it. And I think if I was out there, saying, my personal feelings, then that takes away from my ability to be seen as someone who is fair. And you get called out on it. Like, I joked about something once on Facebook, and like 3 people are like, in your role as an editor at the LA Times, you really shouldn't be saying that. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to lose my sense of humor now too. But but I think, but to be fair, like in my moment of my flash of anger, like, really, are you kidding me with this? I thought, what, they had a point. They had a point, because everything is public. It's like the idea that there's a private Facebook channel, or even if you only allowed authorized people to follow your Twitter. I mean, that woman got fired, right, for the jokes about Ebola, right? Wasn't it Ebola or
AIDS
HIV?
in Africa.
AIDS in Africa. Okay, so, but it's like, she was an idiot. I mean, really, like I would say nothing on social media with the expectation that it wouldn't eventually get out. And I hope the Sony hack has taught a lot of us that, and God help me if that happened, that even what you say in your email is potentially public. So I think it's challenging. You used to just have conversations, and people have to recount what they said. You do have to be a lot more careful. And I think but I think you should be, and I think you should be more thoughtful about how you process your personal feelings and how you portray what's happening in reality.
Thank you.
One of the things with that, I was just going to say that we're in such an oversharing population, in the sense of that I'm going to share that I love this water, and here's a picture of what I ate, and then the shoes that I just bought at the mall are fabulous, and I'm going to do this. And I always say, gosh, when we're always saying where we are, someone could go rob your house. Like, you're always, you're telling every step of your life. Stop it. The oversharing is unbelievable in that sense. So I think that a lot of times, and I always will tell, when we always hear someone get up and they'll say that they're sorry for what they said. No, you weren't. You're sorry you got caught. That's what it really is. So if you're in doubt, if you think you should tweet it, write it, Facebook it, tell a friend. Physically, not with the microphone.
Exactly. There you go.
Right?
All right, Shahid, last question for you. Considering you're the founder of Affinis Labs, I want you to tell us a little bit about what Affinis Labs is all about and what you hope to do with it. And this audience question is a good dovetail for that, which is, what types of Muslim-focused startups do you feel the market is ready for?
So the whole idea of Affinis Labs came about because I had spent 10, 15 years in what is called the digital Islamic economy, and seeing vast markets, global markets, 500 million Muslims between the ages of 18 and 25 that are upwardly mobile. They're culturally more alike each other than like their parents' generation. They care about their identity. They want to spend on it, but very few people actually catering to that market. And what I did with Affinis Labs is try to bring in promising startups that I thought could fit a couple of models. One is by Muslims for everybody, meaning you're tapping into Islamic heritage and values and creating products that have universal appeal. that can kind of transmit that to the masses. I'm a founding board member of Saffron Road. If anyone's heard of Saffron Road frozen entrees, 2% of their market is Muslims. The vast majority is everyone else, and it's part of that is how do you define halal in a way that is universally acceptable, universally kind of appreciated, right? So we're trying to bring in companies that do that. But the other thing that we're trying to do, try to seed this innovation in Muslim communities, is to do hackathons. Hackathons are bringing people together for a couple of days with various different backgrounds and trying to solve a specific social or business challenge, and doing this in Muslim communities with specific challenges that have to do with Muslim identity and life. We've been doing these around the world. We're going to be starting to do them in America. We did one in Abu Dhabi. We did one in Sydney on anti-Muslim sentiment. We're doing one in Silicon Valley with Google and Facebook on combating online hate. We're going to be doing future ones on cultivating Muslim storytellers. But we just want to try to seed the environment. And the number one thing that we found is it's not about skill or talent. It's about confidence. It's about feeling that you can do it. That's the number one barrier for most people. And we realize that once we get people into this situation and we live stream their results and we fund the winners so they can get developed, that they can do amazing things. And so we're hoping in the next couple of years to start spinning out companies and ideas and initiatives. First couple apps are going to start coming out early next year that show that there's a lot of talent in this group of people and they have a lot to give the world. And so, I want to show that Muslims are not just a source of problems; they're a source of solutions.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So, I want to ask now a closing question for everyone. That has two prongs. The first is considering new media now, right? What do each of you think that we have to look forward to a few years from now? What's your prediction of what will continue to impact your industry or your arena in the years to come that people should keep an eye out for? And secondly, we spend a lot of time talking about the points of darkness, and I hope that we can end with the points of light. What is one point of light that you see that gives you hope for how this transition from legacy media to new media can be a force for good? So what's your prediction for the future, and what's a bright spot that you want to give a little attention to?
Prediction for the future, I think that there are so many innovative idea thinkers out there that we haven't even scratched the surface of what we are going to see socially. There's so many people that are now in institutions where coding is becoming available. So I think that we're going to see the next Snapchat, the next Twitter, the next Facebook. There's going to be multiple, I think, generations of that. So I think that will only enhance television viewing for us, because television isn't going anywhere. As much as people keep saying TV's dead, they're watching, people are watching still. So I think that is definitely going to expand it. And I think for the light, because I work in an industry where that's all I see is light and opportunity. I think that one of the things that I say tremendously is that I want to continue to provide the access, because before anyone can ever do anything, you need that access, then the exposure, and then give someone an opportunity. Say yes to someone. And when someone says yes to you, say yes to someone else. And I think that will really be able to, I always love to say, each one teach one. Let's all teach other, get to know each other more, and I think that will be my light, because I know that our communities are resilient.
I think you're going to see, and you already are rapidly, these long time, whether it's the LA Times, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the big names in American journalism make a much more substantial pivot to digital news in a way that is sustainable, right? So a lot of us are now grappling with almost like these dual operations. You have what's in real time or what's online, which I think for a long time was seen as lesser, even though I think it's informing more people than really what lands in your driveway in the morning still. And I think that we saw this last week with San Bernardino, the quality of what we were producing, in close to real time was equal or better than what we were able to publish in sort of this, limited number of, pages. And I think that that's significant for American journalism, because I think that professional journalism does matter is very important. And I think having these organizations make that change in a way that is sustainable is crucial, really, to continuing forward. And I would just say that I think new media is so exciting. I mean, I feel like, you know, you used to be able to just put something on a piece of paper and print, you know, a photograph or a flat graphic, and that was all you could do. And the reason why I moved into digital is because it was so exciting. You know, we could create these databases that lived on, that you could explore things on your own and really understand subject matter. And I think different people learn differently. So video is incredibly interesting and certainly has existed for a long time outside of print newspapers. We were just talking about, we did a video on what Allah Akbar means, you know, where we went out and talked to people in the Muslim community, and ironically, or I don't know if it's ironic, but interestingly, we published it a few minutes before you know, everything started happening in San Bernardino. But I think, like, to explain to people that this is not scary, what this means, you know, how people interpret it, in a way that I think it's got something like 3 million views on Facebook now off of our Facebook page. So that's like reaching an audience that in the printed LA Times you never could have, you know, or even, you know, our coverage of the Syrian refugee crisis, which goes beyond just, you know, the moment it would have appeared on the front page of the paper and is still accessible to anyone looking for it. So I see a lot of excitement and a lot of opportunity to really reach more communities and tell stories in ways that are so much more, and I love writing and I love to write, but that, you know, are more nuanced and go beyond just that medium.
I know this will be hard for a lot of people to believe. Probably a lot of people in this room will not believe this, given the events of this week. But given the success that we've had since 9/11, given the immense amount of talent, Muslim talent in the pipeline in every possible field, but most importantly the creative fields, and given the resilience that America has shown in the face of what's happening, if you kind of ignore the online hype, if you look at the real world, I'd like to think that we're at that kind of the worst of it, and that 5 years from now we will actually be much more integrated, much more accepted, much more felt like neighbors than we are today. I truly believe that. I mean, it's because the amount of impact on the social sphere, on lots of different spheres, by talented Muslims expressing themselves is, we've not even scratched the surface of what we're going to see in 5 or 10 years.
Thank you all. Please give our panelists a round of applause.